Nation of quorum.
Bonnie Billings,
Here.
Bradley Young,
Here.
Jason Evans,
Here.
Brandon Partain,
Here.
Shandon Martell,
Here.
and Renata York.
She's not.
She's not here. Okay. Madam, we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Let's all start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, according to the agenda, we're going to start with the general public comment, and Shannon has sorted them for me. I'm going to start with Pat Davidson. And 2 minutes.
Hello, Chair Billings, members of the Spanish Springs Cab. My name is Pat Davison, again visiting from the North Valleys. I attended your April meeting and brought up the Dignity Index, assuming that it was adopted by the county and asking that it be incorporated into the Cab handbook. After that meeting, I wanted more certainty and asked county staff if and or when exactly did the county commission adopt the Dignity Index? County staff answered, and I quote, "I'm happy to inform you that wording consistent with the focus of the Dignity Index was included in the current BCC Rules of Procedure, which were adopted on February 25th, 2025. The lesson learned here is never assume. So while the actual Dignity Index was not adopted by the board, the focus of the Dignity Index is reflected in the board's governing document and may be included in other rules or guidance for the future. Your April CAB meeting minutes are fine as is. I just want to set the record straight because I'm horrified I gave you incorrect information last month, and because the Dignity Index may come up again in conversations about the CAB. Please accept my apology for any confusion.
Okay, Julie Weeks.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to speak about the La Posada Road proposal that will completely change and degrade the quality of life for all residents of Spanish Springs. If passed, it opens a possibility of a 4-lane highway running directly through our neighborhoods. Traffic will overflow onto residential streets as commuters from outside our area attempt to avoid backups on existing corridors leading to La Posada. It will cause significantly more traffic, estimated at over 10,000 cars per day coming from outside our area. More noise from big rig trucks, which will be allowed to travel over the mountain from La Posada. And more crime with transient motorists traveling through our neighborhoods on a daily basis. The mayor openly stated at the committee hearing that an additional new road will be built to funnel traffic from US 395 in the North Valleys to our west, and existing roadways, Vista, Sparks Boulevard, from Interstate 80 to our south, all leading to La Posada. When I talk to local people, they tell me this has always been the plan, but any plan needs to be revisited and evolves as current conditions change. That change is the thousands of residential homes and schools that are not now adjacent to La Posada. A case in point, Washoe County recently updated and approved the Envision Washoe 2040 Master Plan adopted in November 2023. It's a policy document created with local government and community involvement to establish a long-range framework to guide land development, environmental protection, public services, housing, transportation, and the economy within unincorporated Washoe County. Spanish Springs is included in the master plan as a planning area. The La Posada Road proposal is in direct conflict in numerous ways with the priority, principles, and policies documented in the master plan for Spanish Springs. Besides the various quality of life issues a 4-lane highway cutting through our neighborhoods would create, it specifically states, Policy 3.3, prioritize development of alternative modes of transportation before expanding the roadway network. Policy 1.4, support mixed-use, transit-oriented development and community revitalization projects that encourage walking, bicycling, and easy access to existing and planned transit stops. There's a little more I just want to say in closing. I'm opposed to any plan to create La Posada thoroughfare connecting to USA Parkway. 94% of public opinions posted online to the NELA's website also oppose the plan. I would like to thank the Washoe County and Nevada state representatives and legislators who listened and then represented the wishes of their constituents who elected them. Thank you.
Okay, Stacy, I hope I don't mispronounce the last name, is it?
Don't even try it.
Come on up, Stacy.
I'm gonna pass.
You're gonna pass.
Got my
You want to do
question-
it at the end or just
No, I
pass?
think I got my question answered. I'm
Okay,
good. Thank you.
Bruce Parks.
Microphone?
Yes, it's got great technology. It's in the ceiling, the ceiling, it's up there.
Turn up the volume.
Oh, I'm thinking, that's what you're saying, is you can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I can fix that. Thank you, Madam Chair. Once again, I come before this body asking for an agenda item. I would like to see some folks from Washoe County come here and talk to us about the I Don't Care, the CARES campus. It has been requested for, gee whiz, almost 2 years now that this be an agenda item for this board. And we've yet to see it. We know that Washoe County is facing a $26 million budget deficit, Madam Chair. I have a suggestion where we might cut some corners. But I'd like to hear from the folks that are near and dear to that program to find out what their success rate is. And if we need to continue funding at the current levels. I think that's critically important to we, the taxpayers. We're gonna have to cut budgets in other areas. Maybe there's some trimming that can be done there as well. But again, without hearing from those folks that are in charge of the program, we will never know. Thank you very much.
The rest of the public comments have requested to be at the end. And I just want to remind you that on the agenda, there's this little what do you call this code again?
QR code.
QR code. It's not Monday, I forget things. But if you go to that and you're interested in having a speaker come, this is what we rely on, is your input. So be sure and use that. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for April 2nd.
Motion to approve?
I second that.
Do I hear an aye from everyone?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, approval of the minutes is done. Public safety updates. We have the sheriff's office here, and please come up to the podium and speak loud because we're not sure that they can hear you in the back.
I'll do my best. I'm getting over a cold, so my voice is a little raspy. Thank you for having me. My name is Amelia Galicia. I'm the patrol division captain of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. So I oversee all of the patrol assets for the entire county. I have just some quick updates for you as it specifically applies to your area of residence, Spanish Springs. We have seen some increases in our total calls for service out in this area, which does not necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. A lot of those increases are self-initiated activity by deputies. So they're out here more frequently, they're doing more stops, more traffic stops, more area checks. So that our call volume is up by about 600 from 1,300 to 1,900. However, a lot of your crimes have decreased out here, which is a very good thing. Our assault offenses, we saw a decrease in the first quarter of 2025 and compared to our 3-year average. So we only took 12 cases of assault offenses. Our burglary cases have also decreased for the first quarter with only taking 2 as opposed to the 3-year average, which is 5. Some of the areas, drug narcotic violations, that was also decreased and went down. We took 0 cases for the drug narcotic violations. And our larceny and theft offenses were also down from the 3-year average of 16 to a total of 9 that we took for the first quarter, 2025. We did see a couple increases that are noteworthy that I want to share with you. The first being, driving under the influence. For the first quarter in this specific area, we took 8 DUI cases up from our 3-year average of 5. This is important because the sheriff currently has set a crime goal for increasing or decreasing traffic fatalities across the county through proactive DUI enforcement. So you will see that our DUI arrests and enforcement are going to increase, but that's a strategic pillar of his, and we're trying to influence our traffic fatalities by taking intoxicated drivers off the roadway before they kill somebody. So while it went up, that's a good increase. And then we did see an increase in our destruction cases, damage, vandalism type cases, and we had a couple crime series out in some of our newer housing developments with windows that were being broken. We ended up catching that suspect in the act on camera and it made an arrest in that case. So those were up because of that series, but ultimately resolved with a closed case for an arrest. That's all I have for you, unless there's any questions anybody has for me that I could answer.
I do have a question.
Yes.
Oh, state your name for the record.
Deb Murray.
Oh, yes, okay.
We have some young men that live across the street from us. And they have a lot of friends that come over. One vehicle is very large. I don't know what it is. But I noticed as I was trying to come out of the cul-de-sac and turn left so that I could get onto Neighborhood Way. And I realized that if somebody came real fast around the corner, I'd have been in trouble.
Because you wouldn't have been able to see them because
Yes.
the vehicle is blocking their
Yes.
view.
Is there something that can be done about that?
That one is kind of tricky. If it's a vehicle that's registered and it's parked in a legal manner on the roadway, then there's not a whole lot of action that we can take. If it's not a registered vehicle or if it's parked in an illegal fashion, if it's blocking the traffic flow, so the travel lanes, you can call and have us come out and take a look at it.
But it's not always there. I think it's a friend that comes over, so, I mean, they're very nice over there, and so I can have a conversation with them, but that is my concern.
Yeah.
Because we have people that come off of, well, they're on Neighborhood Way by then. I mean, they come around and it's just like, and go back, down to.
Yeah, I would have a conversation with them if you have a good relationship.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that you just be mindful of that, if that vehicle is there and just inch out slowly until you can actually have a better view of that travel lane.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for being here. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And I'm going to ask if you have any other questions. The sheriff can be in the back if you want to go and ask a question. But remember, my goal is I'm trying to keep this
Yeah.
focused on La Posada Road. So thank you again for being here. Do you mind hanging out for a few minutes? I know there were a couple of questions right
Yeah,
there.
I'll hang out for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate that.
We weren't finished goal 10.
No, I do not want to stay here till 10, Brad. Okay, next thing on the agenda is our speakers here tonight, and I just feel really grateful that both of them, the RTC, we have several speakers from RTC, and we also have the Mayor Lawson from Sparks. And so they've given up their free time to be here with us. Hold your questions until after they're done, and then I have a really awesome questioning strategy that Brandon's going to help me with. Okay, so hold your questions till the end and let's let them finish their presentation. Write your questions down so you don't forget them. Okay, Mayor Lawson and Mr. Thomas from RTC. I think Sally, where is best should they be at the podium? Okay, okay.
All right. Well, first, thanks for having me out. Let me clear up a couple of myths. The toll road is dead. It will not be brought back. I mean, anyways, there is going to be a road built off of La Posada to service out there to Story County. I want to just give you some statistics. Currently, there's about 35,000 employees out there, and 80% of them live with us in Reno Sparks. And 80% of that 80% lives north of I-80. So we have roughly 10,000 people from this area commuting out to Story County every single day. Just 2 days ago in the morning, traffic was backed up on I-80 for 2 hours because of an accident. It happens weekly. It's a quality of life issue, what it boils down to. If you have kids in daycare and you live in Reno or Sparks, or even in Spanish Springs, you can't get daycare because they don't know when you're gonna come home to get your kids. So it's, once again, it's part of that. Tesla was in my office about a month and a half ago. They want to hire 6,000 more people. We've got the lithium loop coming. That's 50,000 jobs for the state of Nevada. We think 10 to 20,000 of those could end up in Story County. Sitting around hoping for something to change is not going to change. As these companies keep moving here, I mean, Google makes like $1 million a second or whatever it is. It's crazy money. It's all play money to them. So we were looking for the way the toll road would have worked is the companies would have paid for the fast pass and the employees then would have commuted back and forth, had a more stable home life and all the good things that went along with it. But now we'll figure out another way to pay for this road in the future. But it's a road that's sorely needed, largely, I think you've heard, and Bill's going to talk about this, the widening of I-80. That we got a $380 million roughly to from the state of Nevada to do that road. The road's going to be $750 million. So let me talk about budget for the state of Nevada. The state of Nevada has about $1.3 billion per year in the NDOT budget. 300 million of that goes towards DMV and state police. Then we divide up $1 billion between the rest of the state. And because Las Vegas pays 70% of those taxes, they get the first 70%. So that leaves 300 million for the rest of us, the rest of the state. So you can see why our infrastructure can get behind very quickly. With the advent of electric vehicles that pay no road tax, no gas tax, no nothing, that makes the problem even more exacerbated. You're going to see the indexing, you're going to get an increase in your gas prices come July 1, and but no increase for electric vehicles. The study that's been at the legislature for at least 2 sessions that I'm aware of, and they keep kicking the can down the road. You know, all your packages you get from Amazon, they don't pay a dime for our roads. And those big heavy trucks are delivering packages all day around your neighborhood. I counted, my wife's responsible for probably a third of it. 15 trucks in my cul-de-sac delivering packages one day. So it is a problem that we're not addressing at the state level. The city of Sparks and Washoe County has a little bit more power, but Reno and Sparks, we have no ability to raise a fee, a tax, anything that even looks like a tax. We can't do that by state law. And then we're locked in by certain laws in I forgot the NRS statute on it, but we have to keep up with the Joneses. So if Reno gives their firemen a 5% raise, we got to give our firemen a 5% raise. We budget for this year, we're budgeting a 3.8% increase in revenue. Cost of living is higher than that. Cost of living has been at 8, 9% in the last few years. And we're at 3.5%, 4% as a budget number. So it's a built-in problem within the state of Nevada's tax system that needs to be fixed, at the state level. There's not a dang thing I can do about it at the local level. So with that, I'll turn it over to Bill. He can talk about La Posada and in the roads and what's going on there.
Thank you, Ed. My name is Bill Thomas. I'm the Executive Director of RTC. Does everybody know what RTC is? Okay, I won't spend any time on that then. We're here tonight. I brought with me Dale Keller. He's our Director of Engineering, so he has the exact details. I'm gonna kind of more or less estimate. So when I talk about numbers, they're not gonna be exact, but they're general for the purposes of understanding what's going on for transportation planning. Our presentation tonight is really going to be in two pieces. I'm going to talk about, excuse me, the connection to Tahoe Reno Industrial Center and what we're doing to look at alternatives. And then Paul, the Government Affairs Officer, is going to go through all the things that we've got planned, particularly related to the Spanish Springs area, so everybody can have a big overview of what we're up to. I do want to reference, and I'll be talking about it, they're up on the boards, this little handout that we presented to you. So, and I'll reference it in a few cases, but what this is we just recently approved our 20-year transportation plan. And in that, there's about $10 billion worth of street road projects, and those are all shown on this. Some of these are not funded. So we've shown everything we've got on our planning horizon and what needs to be done. But we've also been constrained by the fact that we're only going to have probably 10 billion by 20 years from now. So all these roads actually add up to more than that. So I know La Posada is the question I was asked to address. Mayor Lawson, I think, has done a great job in terms of his leadership of identifying this issue. He talked to you about why we're even talking about it. So I won't go into that. Certainly we can add and embellish on that if people are uncertain on what and why we're doing these alternatives. So the first one I'll talk about is what's commonly referred to as La Posada. So that's the north road on this map. That road, at least in terms of what RTC is doing, is we are advancing a design to understand whether that road makes sense. That road is not a 4-lane freeway. It's going to be a 2-lane road. And it'll be a 2-lane road, very similar to many of you who've been out there for a long time, probably what Pyramid Highway used to be many, many years ago. It'll start as a low-scale road. There won't be large volumes on it by our estimations, but it really will serve as a secondary access, like the mayor said, which is really its principal purpose. The second road, which is the I-80, the second red line down here. The mayor said properly that it's about $800 million road. We have, just to correct him, we have $275 million from the federal government.
What's a
So $100 million is being bridged. So there's a gap that needs to be funded for I-80 widening. NDOT has taken that on as their project to address the traffic issues on Interstate 80. So they'll be working probably over the next 5 years, Dale.
Right.
5 to 6 years to widen it from 2 to 4 lane from 4 to 6 lanes. Now, as you can imagine, when that construction's happening, what we already have as a problem is kind of probably going to be even worse. So that's part of the reason from a transportation planning standpoint, looking what are the alternatives. The third road that was considered is the little yellow road that you'll see on this map. Now that one actually is all in Story County, except for a little piece at the very bottom that connects the Steamboat Parkway down in the southeast part of Reno. That road was initially analyzed by NDOT. It runs through private property. It does not have large volumes of traffic. And we can go into how we determine how many people are going to use the road, but the short answer is that one won't have as many people on it as will I-80 or a north route. A lot of that has to do, of course, where people are living and where they're working. As the mayor says, the data we have shows that there's a larger number of people living who work at the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center north of I-80 than there is to the south. So that's why the numbers we see from traffic modeling show a higher volume. However, that south road also, depending on what the final solution is, ranges from 600 million to $1 billion. So that's the third alternative. The fourth one, which we just started this month, is to look at a rail connection. So we've started a study that we're funding at RTC about half of it. It's an $800,000 study, very expensive because you're talking about the railroad. And getting the railroad to buy into us putting a train on their tracks, which is the only way we can probably do this, means we have to prove a lot of things to the railroad before they will let us do it. So that study just started. It is partially funded by NDOT and it's partially funded by Panasonic and Tesla. So the public isn't totally bearing the freight for that particular solution. Now, that study will probably be done in a year. It'll come back to us and it'll tell us, one, can we do it? And this is a threshold question because we don't own the railroad tracks. They're owned by Union Pacific. So we have to convince them that there's an interest and a value to them to letting us use a commuter rail, which I'll describe as maybe more than twice a day, but think of it as AM peak hour and PM peak hour to get people to and from the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center on the current UP lines. And so what we would do is we would buy some trains, we would put them on that track, we would have to fund an operator to run them back and forth at the peak times. But that is a scenario. I heard somebody say earlier, you know, what other things are you looking at other than building roads? That's one we're very seriously looking into. While it's very early in the study, I can tell you with confidence that whatever we learn, it's probably going to be where some kind of tax source to pay for it. There's simply not enough money in the community and there won't be enough fair rates that we could charge somebody to pay for it. These rail solutions are very, very expensive. They're the best way to get people off the road, but they're very expensive to build and they're very expensive to maintain. But ultimately, we will be in a position, it'll go first to our board at RTC, whether they want to go out to the public and ask, are people willing to fund that solution? So we are looking at that solution. The other thing we're doing is we have what we call a rideshare program. And I don't know if any of you have seen the van pool buses, or not really buses, they're minivans that you see in the community. So those are a program that we run where between ourselves, the federal government, and the businesses in the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center, we subsidize the owner of those vehicles because they're personal vehicles. We subsidize them to pay them to drive other people to work. And we're actually very successful. We're actually 6th best in the country in terms of that van pool program. So that shows you how popular they are, particularly with people that have to drive the 14 miles between Sparks area and the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center. So the reason I bring all those up is to let you know we're not just looking at one road, we're looking at them all. And our strategy is to let all of these roads keep moving forward and all of these solutions keep moving forward until we find out what the best answer is. So we're not, La Posada is not the solution. It's one of really 4 solutions that we're exploring and studying. At the end of the day, whatever we decide to do will be in a public forum. And so people will have the information, they'll have the study, they can go to our website when we get there, which we'll publicize. You can read it yourself to see what the information is that we're presenting. So that really is, as of today, May 7th of 2025, that's where we're at on La Posada Road and all the issues related to making a connection to the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center. Now, let me just share one other thing, which you may not be aware of. So when Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center was built, there was a plan, and that was in Story County. So to be fair, it really wasn't a Washoe County decision that was made, but there was a decision made by Story County with the state to build a road down to Dayton. And that road was built. The problem is if I-80 gets shut down, very few people are going to drive all the way down to Dayton to come over to Carson City to come back up to Reno. And as the mayor said, 80% of the people who work in the Tahoe-Reno Industrial Center come from the Reno Sparks area. So you can see that that's where the workers are. That's where the jobs are. You may or may not be happy with that, but that's kind of the reality of today and where we live. And we as transportation professionals are being asked by the elected officials to come up with solutions. Those are the ones we have on the table. We've heard different thoughts from people that vary widely, but those are the ones that we think are realistic in terms of spending our time, your money, and our interest on. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Paul, and he can talk about other things we're doing. I will share with you, we are very focused on Spanish Springs. It's one of the 2 biggest areas of growth in transportation in our community. The other one is North Valleys. Those are the two that are probably getting most of our attention. The interstate free system is really NDOT. So we work with them very closely, but at the end of the day, they manage that and they make decisions on it. I will say that if you looked at it, all the transportation corridors in Washoe County, the most important one and the highest priority for us is the Spaghetti Bowl. Because that really is where most people in our community, either moving north, south, or east, west, have to go through the Spaghetti Bowl. So that is the number one priority. Fortunately, it's NDOT's, so we're able to focus on these other things, but that's kind of where we're at today on that issue.
We can go to the next slide. My name is Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer at RTC. And the things that we're talking about today, the main point of them is really to relieve some of the pressure that we're seeing on Pyramid Highway and Interstate 80. And some of these projects could even help relieve some of the pressure over on US 395. So all these projects together, we're hoping will really reduce some of the congestion that we're seeing. 10,000 cars taking a new road from La Posada down to USA Parkway, that would be 10,000 fewer cars that are driving south or north between I-80 and Spanish Springs. So that's really what we're trying to accomplish with this. So on the next slide, you'll see that a lot of you that have been here before, I've showed you this before. We've got a Pyramid Highway project. We've got 6 different phases to that. The first one is going to be wrapping up here shortly, and that's down there on the purple on the very bottom there. Once they're done with that, we're working on the next phase. One of the ones that we're thinking about next is that intersection of Sparks Boulevard and Highland Ranch and Pyramid Highway. There's different options that we're looking at to try to relieve some of the pressure on that intersection. Everyone that drives down there, just coming out here today, I saw all the traffic backed up the hill, and that's a problem. So that's one of the things that we're really trying to reduce with that. We're also, you can see in the green right there, that's one where we're looking to possibly add another road that would cut across from Pyramid Highway over to US 395. That would relieve pressure off Pyramid and McCarran Boulevard. So it does 2 things on that one. Up you see the blue, improvements farther to the north, and then also you've got disc drive, improvements to disc drive over there on the east side of Pyramid Highway. Next slide. So some of the upcoming ones we have here. So I mentioned Highland Ranch Parkway widening. So Five Ridges project, that project is expected to get started this summer. And that's going to go from Pyramid Highway up to where the development is happening. In 2028, our plan is to widen Highland Ranch all the way to Sun Valley Boulevard. That'll be the RTC project. So that'll reduce some of that congestion you're seeing on Highland Ranch Road, especially right there where you get closer to that intersection. Next slide. Another one we've got planned for next year is adding a southbound lane between Egyptian Drive and Ingenuity Lane on Pyramid Highway. There's a lot of residential, there's a lot of commercial, industrial, a lot of traffic at certain times of the day. So we think that by adding a southbound lane, that will reduce some of the congestion. It'll make the road a lot safer too. You can see right now it's just a 2-lane road. This will make the road safer and create less congestion. Next one. And then a big one that we've got starting up, I mentioned phase 1 of Pyramid project. That's going to wrap up in a couple of months. Our plan is to break ground on Sparks Boulevard widening here in about July. And that's going to be about a 2-year project, but it's going to go from 2 lanes going north and south to 3 lanes going in each direction. And the reason that's so important is because a lot of people out here, they don't want to take Pyramid, they'll take Sparks Boulevard, or they'll take Vista if they're going out to Wingfield Springs. There's only 3 ways to get out to Spanish Springs. So we're really trying to find solutions to make it a lot easier for people to commute back and forth. So this will be a really important project. It doesn't just widen the road to 6 lanes, it also makes a lot of improvements to pedestrian access, ADA accessibility. It also has a multi-use path that we're going to make improvements on. There will be some areas where we'll be putting in sound walls for some of the residents nearby because the widening could make it a lot louder with traffic. So the sound walls will be very important there. But this will be critical just for taking some of the congestion off people that are getting from I-80 up to Spanish Springs. Next. And with that, we'll take any questions you guys have.
Okay, wait, I have the rules for the questions and they work really well. So Brandon, when he sees your hand raised, he's gonna give you an index card with a number on it, 1 through 10. And then when you only get one question, because then everybody can get, it helps the whole group when you ask questions. So one question per card, and we will recycle the cards. Okay, so we will start, Brandon's already passing those out. I'm gonna start with question number one. It has to be a question and only one question per card. Number one, state your name for the record.
Lisa Lambright. I have a question. How about the trucks? I mean, you've got these two big warehouses out here. They have all those truck stalls. What's the truck route? Are they gonna go through La Posada?
The one up here.
So I think, I know Dale's coming up because he has more of the technical knowledge, but I don't think at this point, we can tell you what the future of La Posada is. I can tell you the design we're looking at is it is not a road that's going to be conducive to truck. But at the end of the day, the local jurisdictions decide where the truck routes are. If this is not a federally funded project, which right now it doesn't sound like it will be, we have the ability locally to prohibit trucks on roads like that.
Yeah, Dale Keller, Director of Engineering at the RTC. I think Mr. Thomas is correct. I mean, that's where it would fall into. Yes, will there be trucks on La Posada? Yes, there will be. Is there an opportunity to prohibit it? I think that's where it works. If ultimately, if it's a county road or if it's a Sparks road or if it's an NDOT road, I think we'd have to understand what we're serving, what the needs are for that road as we connect it.
Question number two, state your name for the record. And speak loudly, Bruce.
I can handle that. First of all, we the people are not stupid. We see what's going on in our beautiful little valley here. We see the uncontrolled development. We see the projects that are being in place. We know that it's central to have this road go through there. We understand that. Now, given that 86% of NDOT's budget is spent in Clark County, why are our elected officials not putting pressure on NDOT to fix that corridor of death between the industrial center and Reno Sparks? That is absolutely felony criminal that they've not done something with that. But then again, that's a reflection on the lack of foresight.
Bruce, question.
My question is, when are you gonna put the screws to NDOT and get them to do what's right and abandon this stupid project? Thank you.
Yes.
Anyone want to respond to that?
I certainly will share with you what we've done with NDOT. I mean, at the end of the day, the state government is independent of us. So whether you believe it or not, we do what they tell us because they pass the laws that tell us how to operate. In fact, RTC only exists because the state legislature created us an entity. So what I can tell you is we've had a strategy here in our community of leveraging local money to get NDOT improvements. And I'll give you two examples, actually three. One of them is the SBX project. So if you're not familiar with that term, that was the improvements that were done a few years ago, where if you're coming eastbound on Interstate 80 and you're going south on I-580, it was really dangerous. The traffic was backing up, if you recall, and people were getting rear-ended, even to the point, I think a local high school student got killed there. So that particular project, we basically primed the pump, if you will, by our elected officials deciding to put $30 million into that project. As a result, NDOT gave it a priority and that project was completed. The second one is that we went out as RTC for the recent widening of Pyramid that just got completed. And we sought and successfully obtained a $25 million grant from the federal government that we then used to leverage NDOT to say, you need to get out and do that project. So that was the second one. The third one is up in the North Valleys. For those of you who've been around for a while, with the growth in the North Valleys, there's been a lot of interest and concern by people up there to fix 395 and widen it. So we went out and we got an $82 million grant from the federal government to widen that. We then went back to NDOT and said, we've got you $82 million. Now go do this project, please. And they've done it. So that's been our strategy. We use some of your local funds to basically prime the pump to get NDOT to do projects in our community. And so far, it's been very successful. Now, 73% of the population's in Southern Nevada. they've kind of figured out what we've been up to and they're watching. And, you know, the vibes we're getting is they're concerned that Northern Nevada is getting a lot more than they should. So I'm just sharing that with you. That's the dynamics in the state where, you know, the number of voters determine who has the legislative seat, which ultimately decides how the money's spent. But we have adopted a strategy led by our elected officials to invest in these state projects. Historically, what happened was no local money went into any state project. So we would have to go bang on the door of NDOT and say, we need your help, we need your interest. It didn't work very well. So this strategy that our elected officials have set up is one that we at RTC will continue with their leadership to do. And so far, so good in terms of bringing money into Washoe County. You know, there's 3 projects, over $100 million that we've been able to bring in by that strategy. So we'll keep doing that. And as long as it works, we'll keep doing it. If it doesn't, then we'll have to go to a plan B and figure out how we get NDOT and the state to invest in our roadways.
Okay, we are going to go to question number 3. Say your name for the record.
Gary Murray, lived here my whole life. So here's my question. Why aren't you making these developers pay for this?
Yeah.
So you got trucking, I-80, land donated by Apple, money donated by Apple, and Washoe County has to put $16 million of this firehouse. I think it's probably a good idea that it's out there, but we got all this going here, and these developers come in, rape our city and leave, and we're left with the bill. Make them pay for your road.
So
Don't ask them, make them.
Just a question.
That is my
I'll tell
question.
you,
Why aren't they doing it?
Five Ridges is the first special assessment district that we've done in Northern Nevada.
Where's that?
It's Five
Island
Ridges,
Ranch.
the Island Ranch Road. 12 million of those dollars from that special assessment district are going directly to the road improvements from the entrance to Pyramid Highway. So that is the strategy that the city of Sparks has adopted. It's the strategy that we will go forth with for the rest of our lives. It's something we haven't wanted to do because of the complexity of it, but we got that one under our belt. We feel pretty confident that we have a policy that will fund infrastructure through developers.
The other thing I would add on to that is we have what's called a regional roadway impact fee program. And what that means, and all 3 jurisdictions have passed it, so RTC administers it. For every project that's built in Washoe County, they pay a roadway impact fee. For example, today, if you buy a brand new single family home, $5,000 of the price of your home goes towards these road impact fees. So for each house, we collect $5,000. It's not something that was there before, but it is a fee that is collected to build roadways.
Please hold your comments.
And we do expend that money on capacity. Those are used to widen roads and to cover new construction and building new roads. Now, these are not a new fee. These are fees that are used across the country, but there is a limitation by federal law and federal court cases that we can only charge a proportional amount. So each house has to pay its proportionate share, but it can't pay more than we can calculate it proportional share could be, because it's a fee, it's not a tax. And so each of those people, when they buy a house, they're paying a fee for their capacity on the roadway system. So that is in place. It's been in place since 1996, I think.
That's correct.
Okay, question number 4. Be sure and state your name for the record.
George Forbush. I got several, but only ask one, I guess.
Just one.
Are you gonna connect to Eagle Canyon from Lemon Valley Drive to Pyramid? And are you taking into consideration the safety risks that that's gonna put the public in, considering you have the school zones up there, you have 2 schools, you have some senior citizen facilities there, you have a daycare center there? I mean, are you guys even thinking about that? Because I hear all this safety stuff about I-80. What about what it's gonna do to us out here?
Go ahead.
I can answer that question. So twofold. The first off is about 5 years ago, we did this Eagle Canyon transportation study that looked in making that connection from Lemon to Spanish Springs. And the initial interest was, let's just connect Eagle Canyon up and over down Chickadee. We heard back from the public, said, no, we're concerned about safety and the schools along existing Eagle Canyon. So what came out of that, the preferred recommended roadway, you see in another dark purple that shows it connecting from Pyramid over to Lemon, actually goes a whole new route. So it's a different route that does not go by Spanish Springs High School. So that's one, and that study's on our website. Look up Eagle Canyon Transportation Study on rtcwashoe.com. Then second fold, you'll see later this fall and early next spring, we're going to be doing safety improvements along Eagle Canyon. That includes helping pedestrians with the safety of some crossings, as well as re-slurring the roadway. And then you notice that shared use path kind of ends in certain areas. So we're making that connection all the way from Pyramid High, which existing past the park, up all the way up to Spanish Springs High School. So that is being done this fall into spring.
Question number 5.
Yes, howdy, Jennifer Harbor here, for the record. This question is very selfish because I literally am you're in my neighborhood, you're in my backyard. My street, pushes right out onto La Posada. So I'm just wondering how, as our neighbors, how are we going to access La Posada, which is the only way that we normally, right, get back and forth, especially with y'all are saying, 10,000 cars a day. How are you addressing that with the neighbors? And are we going to be pushed out? I appreciate your comments.
To help address that concern is, we are right now looking at that feasibility study, as Mr. Thomas mentioned. So as we look into that, we're looking at different alternatives to make that connection from La Posada or somewhere in Spanish Springs area down to USA Parkway. Now, as we start looking in that little bit more greater detail, we'll start doing further engineering analysis of understanding, okay, what does this mean? And how is La Posada the best way to connect into? If so, yes, then what does that mean for residents getting in and out of their backyards, as you said? So that is part of it. And as we start narrowing down, we call it like a level 1 screening. We go to the level screw. After we complete our first level, we'll have a public meeting, talk about what we found, and then address any additional concerns. So as we get into the next level and ultimately get to what we call like a preferred alignment, at that time, we will be addressing those traffic concerns. Yes, hey, if this happens, then we need to address X, Y, and Z with the existing roadway up.
And just really quick,
Just one question.
how do I make sure that I'm kept up to date? Is all I'm sorry.
Yep, rtcwashoe.com. We'll make sure you can sign up overall. Josh back in the room. We'll make sure we can, do you have a good website we can sign up for just general details? Put you on the spot.
rtcwashoe.com is the easiest. You can sign up for email updates, but you can also just come talk to me.
Do you have a mailing list for RTC?
We do, yeah, we have our e-news
You
distribution.
get signed up for an email, so you're apprised of all these developments.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, question number 6.
Hi, my name's Karen Better. I just, again, after this gentleman had the conversation, I just want to really know where do you get the money from, like from Del Webb and from, all the new development that's gone out here. I've lived out here for 32 years. It was 2 lanes. And there's just stuff that it's gone crazy out here. Where are you getting the money from? I just want to know. And why don't they pay for it?
So that is a question that has been around for a long time. And I would share again that in '96, there was basically a fee passed that would charge new development. So that is going on. It's been going on since the '90s. We have to do a very structured, it's set up by law. So I don't get to pick. Mayor Lawson doesn't get to pick. None of us get to pick. It's a formula that comes out of law that says you have to do it a certain way. It's very structured and it comes up with a process that every 3 years we reevaluate. And just to get into the weeds, what we do is we look at all the traffic on the roads at a point in time and all the development that exists. And then we forecast forward how many houses are going to be built over a 10-year time period, how many industrial buildings, how many residential, where are they going to be located? And then we apply formulas that say on average, each single family house generates 10 trips a day. So those are numbers we plug into this formula, it comes back and it tells us this particular road, I'll use La Posada. It will say La Posada has gone beyond 18,000, therefore it has to be widened, or whatever the number is. That's a general 12 to 18 is what a 2-lane road only can handle. And then we cost out the price to widen and we work it backwards into all the new development that's coming and charge them a proportionate amount of that. for each house that we think is gonna be built, for example, in a 10-year time frame. So that's how you get to the $5,000 a house. It generates maybe between 7-10 million a year. That goes directly to roads, nothing else. So that's how we deal with it.
Okay, question number 7.
Don Vetter, wondering if this alignment that is shown here is dependent upon the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Act passage? And does this alignment go to the lands that are being proposed for disposal to the city of Sparks? The reason is that will create sprawl if the two do come together. So is this a road just to Trick, or is this a road that'll also serve land that'll be for future Sparks development?
Definitely. Definitely for future Sparks development. We are currently out of land in the city of Sparks.
Yes.
We have 3,000 more lots to build. And keep in mind, La Posada is the northern border of Sparks and Pyramid is the western border. So everything else that you see that sprawl out there, that's the county. That's not the city of Sparks. We had a
Live there.
We know.
we had a
Well, aware of that.
We're very aware of that.
30-year plan to build out the city of Sparks, and we are to the end of our 30-year plan. I have been personally working on this land bill and expansion to the east, and it makes even more sense today with the advent of the technology industry moving out there. We embrace those guys. If they leave, we have bigger problems. But if we don't embrace them, they're gonna leave. If they don't have the infrastructure, their employees don't have the quality of life, they're gonna leave. And then that leaves us, what do we do? What are we? But right now, we're a technology base. That's what we are. Las Vegas is dying right now again because the tourism is dying on them. So we're seeing all these things. I'm just looking for a way to sustain this and make better partners. One of the things that I disagree with our governor on, in the governor's office on economic development, is these abatements we're giving to these tech companies. They need to have an infrastructure component. And we sat in his office and said this, and this is a hard lift because other people don't want to do it. Right now, they are about to pass that, hopefully, knock on wood, 4-story county, but that doesn't affect us at all. So if you there's 2 levels, it's 1 billion and 3 billion. If you're a 3 billion, you get so much abatement. We want to see 20% of that abatement be spent on infrastructure by that company who created that need for the infrastructure. So those are laws that we're working on. There just hasn't been an appetite for this. Our property tax system needs to be fixed. We have the most regressive property tax system in America. Nowhere else does it like we do. We only tax you on 35%, and then over the next 50 years, we discount that by 75%. So and consequently, where the city of Sparks ends up with wages and cost of living and everything going up at 5, 6, 7%, at 5 years, I gotta build another house to cover the costs for the other one. And you can see how this gets into an exponential growing phase, which is if you look at Las Vegas, that's exactly what they've done for decades and decades. I grew up in Las Vegas and, when I left for college in 1978, there's 300,000 people in the whole valley. Now there's 2 million, 2.4 million, whatever the number is. It's huge. But it creates its own spinning out of control. One of the reasons why I live here is because I like this community. I like the size we were. I raised my kids here. Both of my boys went to UNR. It's a big deal for us to keep that quality of life. So that's what I'm working towards. We're looking at a way to do this. It's for the property tax to reset upon the sale to the assessed value. So that right now, when we had the Great Recession, your property tax, your value of your home, say it went, I'll use my house. Mine went from 150,000 down to 90,000. It takes 25 years for me to get from 90,000 back up to the $150,000 value. I can't run a city on 1.5%. It just doesn't work. The numbers don't work. You want roads, you want parks, you want pedestrian ways. We got to pay for them somehow. And if we don't have the money, you just don't do it. You're going to see a reduction in calls for police and fire. We're not going to answer the dog barking, the bad neighbor, or broken foot. Those are going to go somewhere else. And because we just don't have the manpower of the people. We laid off 40% of our staff in the Great Recession. And we are doing the job today with less people than we had in 2008 employed. And our population's grown by nearly 40%. And we're laying off 7% more this month to make the budget balance for next year. So that's the only place we can lay off or create money from is less services, less employees. Not to mention the PERS system. Police and fire, we just got a 9% increase. We pay now 59 cents on the dollar for police and fire for their retirement. But think about that. You're making $10 an hour. We're paying $15.90. That's just for that portion of it. Plus we pay for 100% of their insurance, which is another $35,000 on top of that. So these are all in state law, by the way. This is not something I can change. This is what your state representatives have to change.
Question number 8.
Okay, I had a
Oh,
question.
be sure and state your name.
Marco Sereno. I had a question, but I'm gonna change it and maybe I'll do the other one too. He just said,
Wait, do you have a question?
yeah, he said that his property went from 150 to 90 and it's gonna take 25 years or something for it to get back up there. We've been here for 25 years. We paid a certain amount for that house. We were paying less than 3,000 in property taxes. We're now paying 6,000 in property taxes. So where do you live that you get preferential treatment and I don't? Number one. Number
That's
two,
just one
when are
question.
you going to stop approving more developments in the last 5 years? Go there. The two
One
warehouses,
question, sir. One
Huge.
question. That's
apartment complexes, and then you say, we got a problem. But let's bring more traffic in.
okay. Let them answer your one question. If you want
Hold
another
on.
question, you can get another card.
Let's get with it.
I don't live anyplace different than you do.
One
Well,
question.
then you should be paying what I'm paying, and you say you're not. Please explain that. Here, give this back. And the next time, have something that works for a speaker.
We have a question on the answer to your one question about the property taxes.
It's your property tax drop down. It can only go up 1.5% if your house is less than 50 years old. So
Mine
that-
never dropped down, never.
You need to talk to the assessor. Mine dropped down, my neighborhood dropped down.
Okay, our next question is number 9, and it is online.
She actually hung up.
Oh, she hung up. All right. Do we have a question number 9?
You got anything?
10. Question 10. State your name.
My name is Paul Orsini. I'm gonna kind of follow up on what this gentleman just said, and there's a lot of land here that is zoned for development, for industrial, for housing, and it's vacant. How is it that we have no control over how whoever owns that land can build on it whatever they want? If it's commercial, and they can then go ahead and build their warehouse that we have to look at every day when we're driving down Pyramid. Who has control over how the owner of this land, whether it be industrial, commercial, or residential, can they just go forward and do whatever they want? Or can we start exercising some control and say, look, we don't have the infrastructure for you yet. So maybe we need to hold off on that. Thank you.
The answer is each particular entity controls their own ordinances. So I control the ordinance, the city council controls ordinances for Sparks, Reno City Council for Reno, Washoe County Commission for unincorporated.
And then I just want to add that we had a really great meeting in October of 2024. And if you go to the hub, you will see the minutes from that meeting. And I found it very informative about how things are made, decisions are made. So you might want to refer to those meeting notes. Okay, now it's 7 o'clock and we still have some things on the agenda that we have to cover. And I want to make sure that I get you out of here on a reasonable time. So I'm gonna allow 5 more questions. So we got, are we starting with 1 again, Brandon?
Yes.
Okay, we're only gonna go to 5. Okay, question number 1. State your name and make sure it's a 1 question.
I'm number 1.
Okay.
Am I the perception question? I have a perception that industrial park out there. And the perception I have is if they start construction on Interstate 80, they're gonna have an employee problem. And the mayor brought it up and said, you can't get to work and you can't get home. That's gonna affect their work. Sparks recognized this when that plan started out there originally, because they went to Story County and said, you need to build residential construction out there. Take care of your own people. They didn't do it. And Sparks wanted to be compensated. My perception didn't happen. And starting that construction is gonna have a huge effect on that industrial park. Putting this road in is gonna offset that. There's pressure being put here somewhere. And I don't think the whole thing is being centered around that industrial park. It basically is gathering all the taxes for Story County with no responsibility of Story County. And the mayor, I think at one time stood up about this and actually talked about it, but it never was followed through. La Posada is a residential street. And I really didn't know what this road meant, but after listening to the mayor, what you've said, it's a residential rural street with residential homes on it that use it every day to go. And now you're gonna put trucks on it every day, 10,000 people driving into this valley down a residential street. And I just think for poor planning, for not holding people accountable in another jurisdiction for their problems, I just think the due diligence has to be, more pressure has to be put on before. I've lived on this valley for 25 years.
So what is your question?
Question is my perception right? That's what my question is.
Okay.
Your perception is, yes, I get all the heat because I'm the one willing to stand up here and take the slings and arrows. I'm okay with that because I'm looking for ideas. I always use this phrase, I'm like an atheist reading the Bible. I'm looking for loopholes everywhere. And what happened with Story County is they basically said, we're not collecting any tax money because all this money is abated. And now that Story County is starting to collect some of this tax money, they're about $150 million in the hole on their infrastructure. So, and the other thing that Story County did, when they took the park in, some 380,000 acres or whatever it is, they took that in, they said there will be no more homes out here. That's part of their development agreement out there. So that's why there's no home. Plus the fact they don't have any water. Bottom line. You can't build a home without water. Now, we have water in our area in Sparks, but we don't have land. So there's all these, there's a million competing pressures that come onto us. So yeah, the perception is, we will be out there with our hand out as they get it better. We get more whole because it's their employees, it's their businesses that are creating the demand in our area. Now, they bring up a good point. They bring their salaries and their paychecks here to spend their money.
So I would add to that, it's a little bit of a nose under the tent because it's small, but Story County did pay $100,000 towards the rail study. So we've been having conversations.
Better than nothing.
You know, that's what I said, it's nose under the tent. It's not paying for it, but they have started acknowledging that they need to help pay. I don't think it's at the level Mayor Lawson would want to see or anybody in Washoe County, but you know, that, to me, it's a good indication that they're recognizing this is their problem too.
Okay, we're gonna go to question number 2.
My name's Ed Edgecombe. Do you guys really think that 10,000 cars in the morning are going to line up down here off of Pyramid to get on off Sada? What's happening here between 7 and 10 o'clock or whatever? People are walking, their dogs, everybody's out. Kids are getting on buses, all that stuff. So guess what? These people that are going to be waiting in line down here at La Posada get up, they're gonna head for all the surface roads around here and go like hell until they get their first up in line. And it's gonna turn every road out here into a freeway.
Okay, so the question,
Yeah, it's getting close now, but can you imagine 10,000 cars all trying to get on La Posada? Forget it. It ain't gonna happen.
are you clear what the question is?
No, I stated mine.
Good question. Maybe to help answer and maybe address, they are valid concerns, no doubt about it, right? And so as we look into it, I want to make sure we're clear too about 10,000. It's not everybody at 10,000 lines up and goes out to the tri-center. It's 10,000 throughout the entire day on average. So
Doesn't
it's
matter.
not everybody going at one time, out and back.
What's when they start?
Clarify that.
Let them
But
answer.
the second is, yes, those are concerns, as I mentioned to this woman, that we have to address, understand the safety and what does it look like today? And so that's what part as we go through this different levels of screening, as we jump into this, we need to get those more details. And we'll be able to present those details as we have them at those public forums.
That detail is called
Sir.
common sense.
So we still have 12 minutes worth of ending comments. So keep your comment to yourself and just ask the question, okay? So question number 3.
Mr. Lawson, back in October of 2024, you said you were suggesting buying federal land out here and using revenue from billboards and solar farms. Is that still your intention? And don't you think that's going to destroy our beautiful hills, our scenery, our natural beauty out here in northern Nevada?
You won't
Can
see
you
it.
state your name for the record?
Bonnie Olson. So is that your intention?
We won't see it. That's why we want to move our industrial to the east. Because it's over a hill.
I live facing those hills of La Posada. My backyard faces that. I enjoy sunsets with wine almost every night. Shit going on out here, but anyway, that's another subject.
There's 1,600 acres that are privately owned.
Ma'am, please just let him answer the question.
I'm telling him why I'm asking my question. I'm gonna see that. I'm gonna see the billboards. I'm gonna see the solar farms.
That's not the intention to let it be seen from this side of the
So
mountain.
you're gonna hide it?
On the other side of the mountain where the industrial will be.
Okay, we're gonna go on to question number 4. State your name for the record.
Johnny Lau. Mayor, long time ago, there's a project called Copper Canyon by behind the hill. Everybody talk about it. I kind of hyped up, but it got killed, and then the people went belly up. You know, when the slowdown's happening. So what happened to that project now?
We're still trying to kill it. We don't want houses there.
Oh,
We don't want houses there.
Come out here.
I don't want them anywhere out here. I want them east. I don't run what happens to the north of La Posada and the west of, that's the county business. So, and I'm not trying to throw the commissioner under the bus, but.
Okay, that's all the comments. We're gonna go to question number 5, and then I'm only taking one more because they're online and they've been waiting. So I'm gonna do question 5 and then question 6, and then we're gonna finish the agenda. And we still have end comments that take up 12 minutes. So 2 minutes apiece. So, all right, question number 5.
Yeah.
Wait, you got the card? You have the card?
My name's Randy Brink. Just curious, a lot of talk about developers should pay for some of this. Aren't developers of any magnitude of all required to submit a traffic impact study that shows the load that they'll bring as part of their development? So then also, once they identify that, aren't they required to help with mitigating the traffic load that they bring? It's a lot of talk about the developers should help with this. Are the developers helping?
They are paying the fees. I'll just tell you right now, it costs roughly $60,000 a door to build a house or an apartment, just in fees. So we have some of the highest fees in the country right here. So when you look at that, that's going into the price of your house. You know, so we're never gonna get to affordable housing. The 2x4 costs what a 2x4 costs. I mean, that's a misnomer that there's such a thing as a affordable housing. There's smaller houses and there's market rate houses, about the only two. So the developers in Sparks, our plan is to use a special assessment district and to use that for our infrastructure needs that the developer will pay.
Okay, we're gonna go to question number 5, which is online.
Madam Chair, may I add to that just
Yes.
from a Washoe County
Yes.
perspective? So my name is Commissioner Clara Andriola. I apologize for being late. I'll skip on why, but you'll be hearing about an announcement of the new president for TMCC tomorrow. I was on that selection committee. The bottom line is that to the mayor's point about special assessment districts, for the last 2 years, being in the position of looking at how we can have infrastructure be first is what we're looking at Washoe County and moving forward with that. So just thought that's hot off. the
And
press.
it's just to keep in mind, that doesn't lower the price of a
At
house
all.
either.
And developers are still having to pay the
If
fee.
we don't get the lands bill and we don't expand, we're gonna see higher housing prices, just bottom line. Fully 50% of the people that are moving here today are from California. Stop them before you or after you.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go to the question that is online right now.
It's from Amy Fling online, and she says, but I work for the state and my wages are not increasing while others coming in take away from me with their higher salaries, and I am expected to pay for the roads. That was her question.
I'm not sure that's a question. That's a statement. So we're gonna move on with the agenda right now. So we're going to go to item number, and first of all, I want to thank this team very much for being here because you gave up your time. So thank you.
Let me just say, Chair, before, if you guys have any questions, I'm easily accessible. Just call the mayor's office. And we will talk. I'll answer any question you have to ask me. A lot of stuff is some inside baseball stuff that there's a lot to get into the weeds on. So trying to simplify some complicated subjects. I know it doesn't always work well in a forum like this, but feel free to give me a call and I'm happy to speak with you and clarify what I can.
Thank you very much for being here. We do appreciate it.
And with
Thank
that,
you.
I'll think later.
Okay, item number 7. This item number 7 is a report from last, and it was from the chair report. I'm not going to read it to you because we want to get out of here on time. But it has to deal with Pat Davidson's remark at the beginning of the meeting. And there was some follow-up with that. And so I encourage you to go to the Spanish Springs CAB meeting minutes and you will see the chair report in there. Okay? That'll cut off some time. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to announce any upcoming, this is you, Sally.
Go ahead and share my screen again.
Okay.
Yeah. It is not. Okay, well, I do apologize for that. I thought I had it all set up, so I could go right to it. I think so. So, here's my screen.
You were so funny. Sally, do you want me to come back to you?
Yeah, I'm actually not gonna be able to get to that. I seem to share my screen.
Okay, we'll come back to you because the commissioner is here and I always like to give the commissioner some speaking time. So Commissioner Andriola, are you there?
I am.
Yeah. Want to come up front?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming. You know, we're really committed to the CAB. We love the Spanish Springs CAB. I live here, and in order to provide you with all the information and facts, you're seeing that over the last couple of years, we've really tried to target information that directly impacts us. And the only way we can do that, even if it's difficult information, is to have topics like we had tonight. And so I invited the mayor and Mr. Thomas and others to come. And I also really want to thank this incredible board of the Spanish Springs CAB who have really been engaged in looking at what feedback you would like to hear. So I don't know where the QR code is, but we have a QR code there. Not that you only have to use the QR code as an opportunity to offer topics of interest, but you're welcome to also call 311. You're welcome to call me. You're welcome to call the chair. We are accessible. CABs to me are the most important part of what we do. It's the closest we can get to the constituents that I serve, and that's you. And so a lot of information is misinformation that I hear, and then there's fact information, and that's what is we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to accomplish giving you the facts, even if it is difficult, even if it's challenging. So the chair mentioned, for those of you that weren't at the October 2nd, 2024 CAB, you can go to the Washoe County Spanish Springs CAB. You can watch that link and you'll see how planning works and how it all is tied together. Some of you touched upon it. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to hear the entire presentation, but I am aware of some of the information that you probably heard tonight. The process is not just developers coming and doing what they want and it's not managed. It doesn't work like that. And as I mentioned, one of the things that I have saw that you've all been saying is the importance of looking at infrastructure. So special assessment districts, special improvement districts have been in legislation since 1967. And so when I got there, I do have a background in legislation. I spent years at the legislature with local, federal, and state policy. And so it was clear that we could look at a framework of what we could do to change the dynamic. And that's what we're trying to do at Washoe County. And so you heard the Sparks mayor say that they're looking at that too. Clark County has been doing this for years. So, stay tuned. It's hard to change things. Government does not work fast. Government is glacial. And unfortunately, it takes time to work through the process. There's legalities, there's, how everything has to work. So it's not that we're not trying to be responsive. That's not the case at all. I'm about facts, I'm about data, and I'm about doing what we can to try and change things as quickly as we can. So just know that we care and that we want to hear from you. And so, did I mention that there's a QR code that you can provide topics of interest? The chair and the board has done a great job in lining out what the year looks like, the remainder of the year, and meeting monthly is also helpful. So I'm sure the chair will share the next meeting. But hot off the press, as I mentioned, the reason I'm late is because I was asked to serve on the selection committee for the next president of Truckee Meadows Community College. And the Board of Regents will meet tomorrow and they'll be voting on who that person is. So I don't know exactly who it's going to be, but there were 3 names put forward. There were 5 candidates and they were all amazing. So it was really, I'm sorry I was late. I hope it was worth it. Did I mention the QR code? If there's information that you'd like to learn about, it's a two-way street. Instead of just providing you information, we'd like to hear from you. And we know how important that is, in fact, so really, really important. So thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the
Thank you,
board.
Commissioner Andriella. And thank you for aligning the speakers that we always ask for, and you're always so great to get for us. All right, so I just want to announce that the next Spanish Spring CAB meeting will be June 4th. And we are going to hear about the library services right here at the Spanish Spring Library from our librarian. And I think it's so important because I hear a lot of our citizens, they are not aware of how many services this library does. So that's next month. And then the July 2nd is NDOT's coming back, hopefully. And so we'll get to hear more. And then September, we have a CERT and we have a possibly, what is a go bag? And how do you put one together for emergencies? And then we have the Truckee Meadow Regional Planning Authority may come back in October, and November, another RTC update. So if you have other ideas, That QR code is on the agenda. Take it with you. All right, so now we have 12 minutes because that'll put us 2 minutes over my 7:30 goal, but we'll be okay. So, these are 2 minute each speaker comments. These are where you just comment on whatever you want to. All right, it's not Toll Road, it's Tom. Tom, yes, Tom.
My name's Tom Iolio. I live in Sparks. I came here in 1999. And unfortunately, Spanish Springs and Sparks starting to look like the Brooklyn Queens Expressway. Okay, I'm sure that you were a little bit late because of the traffic that you had to travel on.
Actually, it was
The
perfect.
things that these gentlemen who were rudely and disrespectfully didn't listen to what you had to say and to listen to the comments that any of us might have to say, they rudely left. So my question to them was, you did all this fact checking, you're gonna go on Sparks Boulevard, and you're gonna build, and you're gonna make it wider. Sparks Boulevard, in case you don't know, is not wide enough to make anything. You have an island in the middle, and you have sidewalks on both sides. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna take off the sidewalks? And what are you gonna do during the construction for all those people that live on Sparks? What are you gonna do for those people? You're gonna get dust and dirt in their houses. You're not gonna have to live there. The people that live along Sparks Boulevard are gonna be people that live there. And they're the ones that are gonna have to suffer with the dirt and the noise and all the pollution that's gonna go on there. There's enough pollution going on now. They had to resurface Sparks Boulevard because of all the trucks that use Sparks Boulevard as a thoroughfare to get on the pyramid. Okay, you can't travel down Vista Boulevard. You can't travel on Sparks Boulevard between the hours of 6, okay, in the morning until like 10 o'clock. And then at night from about 3:30 to 7 o'clock at night. That is the BQE, Brooklyn Queens Expressway, and they still haven't told us what's the special assessment?
Time's up.
Can I just finish, please, and I'll just shut up?
One
I'll just be
sentence to
quiet.
finish.
They haven't told us who's gonna pay for this.
Okay, all
You're
right,
gonna
the
pay
next
for this with your
person,
special
2
assessment.
minutes is up, sir.
Always happens.
It's-
They can
Sir,
promise you the world.
It's not fair to everybody else.
This is gonna be a disaster.
Okay, that's enough.
For your service, sir.
And thank you for your
Thank you
service.
for listening to me.
All right.
And this map you gave us, you can't even see anything with your glasses. I couldn't see anything.
George Forbush,
Right? You
2
should-
minutes.
You should let people know that you're having these meetings. I came to this. thing
That's
late.
enough, sir.
I'll sit and listen to what the gentleman has to say.
I'm against the toll road or any road going across the Powers because I'm concerned of a couple things. First, the wildlife, right, which nobody's even talking about yet, right? Second, this does not make sense to me with I-80 because if you have 380 or $300 million right now, why don't you guys start at the bottlenecks and expand the bottlenecks? Okay, start at the eastbound exit, going to USA Parkway and widen that. There's no mountain there. You can widen that. You might have to expand the bridge, but that will dramatically increase the flow of traffic in the morning when people are taking that eastbound exit. And then expand the roadways at Patrick in both directions, and then the westbound Vista. And then when you get the money, do the rest of it. You know, it sounds like everybody's waiting to get all of it at once and then do the whole project all at one big time. And there's no common sense being brought here on this issue, okay? And we've heard it, this toll road or whatever you want to call it right now was always disguised as just bringing in more housing, more infrastructure, okay? And I can tell you, because I know the mayor, he laughed and he made a comment, a pretty crappy comment about, you know, if you're sitting in traffic, thank your assembly members, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I specifically talked to a lot of the assembly members down there. They didn't want this because they were worried about the problems that toll roads bring, the false promises that come with them in other states. Okay, second, because of the private joint venture that they had, they were afraid that the state was gonna have to bail them out. All right, that was the other reason they were against this. So despite what he says, I would thank them actually for being fiscally responsible. Yeah, you can thank them for sitting in traffic too, because they do need to do something about it. But I think they were looking out for us on the money side of it. So, thank you.
I just want to remind you too, that during public comment session, we cannot respond to anything because it's not on the agenda. But if you want to follow up, you just have to put your contact information on this sheet and we'll get back to you, okay? All right, Johnny, is it Johnny Lan? Lau, okay.
Okay, I'm gonna be quick. My name is Johnny Lau. I have been working out in the USA Parkway, boy, since Apple secretly opened the office there, which you guys didn't know. So I worked there for a while, then I quit. Then I back to this side of town up in Lemon Valley, unfortunately, another traffic jam. Then I went back to a chemical plant out there by the power plant there. And then I worked for Switch Data Center for 5.5 years, almost 6 years now. So traffic growth tremendously. We definitely need a road expansion. So like I say, growth is inevitable. They're gonna do this, could alleviate of them. Just now, when I came back from a data center, I try to rush myself and speeding whenever I can, which is illegal. But I make here in 50 minutes, which is supposed to be 30 minutes, by the way, from Switch Data Center. I work at Switch Data Center, by the way. So my bottom line is, if inevitably they're gonna build this, so I just recommend that they're gonna have, you have all the engineers out there, you do have a few off-ramp, want to clear their way, so that if something emergency happen, our EMS people can take people to the hospital quick, the Northern Nevada Hospital. That's one exit. And the other one may be Belmont, another exit. And the third one, I don't care where you're gonna put it. Winfield Road, whatever you can cut through, or La Posada, or the one that the engineer was talking, maybe some other of the study, you might have to come up with another alternative. That's all, but I'm an engineer, so I know what you're up to, okay? So even though I'm not civil engineer or highway engineer, whatever it is. So my question is, I'm electronic. I can put up something up quick. Traffic flow like crazy. Automatic car, everybody drive 80 miles an hour, no problem. So right now, the bottom line is the street is really bad now, just let you know. I have been so bad that you couldn't believe it.
Thank you. All right, Donnie Olson.
And now Johnny.
You've already said.
Redundant. A lot of people have voiced how I feel, and it sounds like it doesn't matter what we think out here. Really sad that nobody really cares about us, even though the mayor says he does. I don't believe that he does. If he did, he wouldn't do this. The Spanish Springs. And of course, he didn't stay around to hear everything, so, you know, he really doesn't care. That makes it very obvious.
Okay, Derek? No. What?
No, I'll do it real quick, yeah.
Oh, Derek Bissell.
Yeah,
Okay.
Derek Bissell, just a resident nearby, within a mile of the proposed road, and I think just reiterating, I'm worried about traffic, noise, and the cost to us taxpayers. That's all I have to say.
And our last public comment is Don Vetter. I hope I didn't mispronounce your last name, sir.
You did. You
I
did.
did.
You did good. You did good.
I did good. All right.
Don Vetter, 9105 Spanish Trail Drive. I've been a resident out here for 33 years. Let's talk about data. I would like the RTC, Paul, let's get a good number on the employment out there. The mayor said 35,000. The official records of Story County, it's 17,000. Your NDOT traffic on USA Parkway is 21,000 a day. That's your ADA unit, it's online. So let's get a good number. It's a commute study. I looked up Tom Harris. He doesn't have it. I'd recommend you talk to Dave Schmidt of Dieter. He's the state economist. He tracks it. I'd like to know the zip codes of where every resident who commutes to Trick comes from. That is a great way to have data that you can make decisions upon.
Yeah.
Secondly, let's talk about change the dynamic. Rather than going out and sprawling, if you remember my question, why don't we look at infill? there's a bill, AB 241 right now. I'd like to see an inventory, Sparks, Reno, and Washoe, of infill possibilities. It is less expensive as a developer, if you're a developer, to build. Let's get an inventory. Let's change the dynamic. So that's another thing I'd recommend. And then finally, if you want to nip this in the bud, the Truckee Meadows Public Lands Act is in Congress. We do have 3 Congress people, maybe a letter. And then finally, Commissioner, I'm going to start a GoFundMe campaign and I'll donate that we can have an audio visual here. And I will donate. I know you have some discretionary fund available.
It just got cut.
No, I know, but I'm willing to, if someone could give me a number that we can have a speaker system in here, I'd be willing to donate so that we can all hear. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Look at that, 7:31.
I tried to be sure.
Right on.
All right. We are, do I have a motion to end this meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Move to adjourn the meeting.